Inflation has been a bear. By most standard economic measures, President Joe Biden has presided over a strong economy. In terms of growth, job creation, wage gains, and employment levels, it's hard to find fault. But as everyone knows, voters heading to the polls in November aren't feeling the way the data suggests they should. Why? Inflation and its corollary, the high cost of borrowing money. While the Federal Reserve deserves credit for guiding the post-pandemic recovery without putting the country into a recession, America is still feeling what some have dubbed a silent recession or vibe recession. A Gallup poll in January found that 45% of Americans rated the economy as poor, and most of the respondents said it's getting worse. After all, the average American carries more than $100,000 in debt across mortgages, car loans, student loans, and credit cards, and the borrowing costs remain high. As it turns out, consumer sentiment has tracked much more closely with the old method for calculating CPI than the modern one that de-emphasizes debt service. Biden is trying to reframe the debate by criticizing businesses for shrinking the size of their product while also raising prices. His shrinkinflation gambit is supported with some real-world evidence. Those bags of pretzels don't hold as much as they used to, and there's less of the toothpaste in the tube. We've been critical of some consumer products companies for taking advantage of the inflationary environment by hiking prices simply because they could. But in general, blaming businesses for responding to rising prices seems like little more than typical political blame shifting. Of course, businesses had to respond, and Biden ought to acknowledge that inflation is stickier than he anticipated it would be. The Fed, meantime, could come to Biden's rescue by cutting rates. And Chair Jeremy Powell says it's still planning to make at least 3 cuts this year, but its number one priority should be tamping down inflation, which at 3.2% as of February 29th is still too high. Voters are smart to recognize the pain they are feeling from inflation and the high interest rate needed to fight it. We urge the Fed to keep doing whatever is necessary to stamp it out. Political fallout be damned. Chicago Tribune.